Hey, howdy, hey, and welcome back again. This episode of Avilla Theory, we're talking about real estate, this time more about remodeling and a specific remodel project that we've been working on. I'm CJ, and I'm here with my wife, Nicole, and we are sitting on the floor.
We are. We're in the middle of our own project.
Yep. We have a big project that started years ago when we turned one of our bedrooms into like a storefront. And in the process, we tore down a wall.
Yes. Well, part of it.
We tore down part of a wall.
A third of it.
A third of the wall.
We made a doorway.
Yeah, we made a doorway. It was like an archway. Mm-hmm. And the way that it was built originally, or like the doorway was built, the way that we built the doorway, was with bullnose corners. Mm-hmm. Right, that's the way we finished it. So we basically just like cut a hole in the sheetrock, removed all the studs. We cut pieces of the baseboard off, and then we had a wall that we could walk through.
Yeah.
Or we had a doorway that we could walk through, yeah. Uh-huh. And then we finished it, the way that we finished it is on the inside edges of the doorway, we put sheetrock, and then we put bullnose corners, which are like these metal strips that you nail in to the corner to make it a rounded corner, because that's what we have in the rest of the house.
Right.
Is these rounded
You're generously
corners.
Saying we, but I don't remember helping with that project.
You didn't help with that part?
At all.
Okay.
I might have helped put a hole in the wall, but I think you did the rest yourself.
Yeah, I think we might have a picture of that, or like a video or something.
A video of the process of you taking it down, yeah.
I think the most fun part of this entire process was hammering the first hole.
Yes, the first hole.
On like a perfectly pristine virgin
at
wall.
That
point,
you just take
the
house
a hammer
was
and
probably
smash it down.
Maybe 2 years old or something.
Yeah.
So I remember being very nervous about it. But it worked out really well, and it was nice for a while to have that open.
It was great.
Even when this wasn't being used for the storefront. This was then the den, and so that doorway kind of goes off into our living room, so it just kind of made it feel even more open, and we were getting more light in there. But our life continues to change.
Yep.
And now that CJ is working from home and I'm at home with the kids often, we needed to have two bedrooms, a bedroom for his office and a bedroom for the kids.
Yes.
So we decided to close it up, and we decided to do that on our own. I don't know, we were feeling pretty confident for some reason.
We were, yeah. I take a lot of, as part of my work, I have to take a lot of conference calls and meetings and stuff where I am basically on the phone. And so when there was an open doorway that led directly to the living room and the kids were just home from school or whatever, it was really difficult to focus and for the kids not to feel super guilty and for Nicole not to be yelling at them to be quiet while I was on phone calls and stuff.
These meetings would sometimes be at 5 o'clock at night when we're trying to get dinner on the table, and maybe we have music on or the TV on, and it just kind of felt like we couldn't both be doing what we needed to be doing.
Yep.
So we decided to close it up, and this has been a couple of weeks just because we're only really working on it on the weekends when nothing is going on.
Yes.
So you started it it was in October, so it was a couple of weekends ago.
Yep.
What was the first step of, I wasn't here for that.
Yeah, so I just took, the Sawzall, or the reciprocating saw, and I cut into the sheetrock that was around the edges, and then, so that I could peel back the bullnose, because I wanted to rip out the sheetrock that was added to the like inside edges of the doorway. And then once I was back down to the studs, then I took 2x4s and built a new frame. Built a new frame for the wall. I
did see that part. Yeah, that was really nice.
Yeah, and so that's kind of a fun part of framing in and like filling in a wall is you build like a mini wall that should fit perfectly.
Right.
And then you kind of like wedge in the top part of it, and then you hammer on the bottom. So it's just like a perfectly tight, snug, seal.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then we wanted to try to make it as soundproof as possible. So was the next step the foam?
Well, I put up one side of sheetrock, and I almost put up the other.
That's right.
And then Nicole was like, wait. Are we going to do that foam thing?
Yeah.
And so, so we put...
it's like styrofoam.
So...
not spray foam.
Right. One side is sheetrock. The other side, or like in the middle, we put There's a specific name for it. It's escaping me right now, but it's like you can buy them in humongous sheets from Home Depot, and it is like 2 inches thick styrofoam. One side has like a reflective like tinfoil thing with logos on it, and you can just like take a saw and cut it into the sizes that you want, and then you'll have like little tiny pieces of styrofoam all over your garage.
Yeah.
So we cut it up to fit into like the little gaps in the newly framed wall. Put the other side of sheetrock on.
Yeah. Ooh, can I give a tip on that?
Styrofoam stuff? Yeah.
The first time I was introduced to it was actually over this summer when our piano teacher bought some for us and cut it up into strips. Strips like the size of a piano bench. And she gave us like 6 of these. And she wanted us to stack them under their feet. So like for Logan, he needs 4 of these under his feet to keep his feet flat because they're not using the pedals at this point. And then 1 on the bench for him to sit on so he's at the appropriate height. And I had to use duct tape all around the sides because it will just continue to...
Just disintegrates. And
so you have little white flakes everywhere. But I didn't even know what this stuff was. She just picked it up and like gave it to us. And then when you bought it, I was like, oh, okay, this is what it's supposed to be used for. But, if you need something to put under your kid's feet for the piano, there you go.
We used something similar at the cabin for insulating the water heater shed. But Dad got that stuff. So.
Okay.
We actually have a giant sheet of that in the shed at the cabin still.
Yeah.
But, okay, so then we had the drywall on.
Yep.
And then the next step is...
So at that point, like, it's functional. Like, now we have a bedroom, and we could have just swapped them, but we didn't.
We wanted to make it a little more finished.
Yes.
So we're the next step that we took was filling in the gaps around the sheetrock that was just added by taking putty. You can buy, like, mix and, like, mix your own.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, but
that seems messy.
I don't like doing it that way. So I just buy like the tubs of pre-made.
Probably cheaper though.
Yeah, probably.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah. So I just buy the tubs of the pre-made stuff, and then this time around we added a little water, but that time I didn't. But we had some pretty big gaps because it was just like tearing down the bullnose was really like the edges of the drywall were super jagged, so it was not a tight or it wasn't a clean fit at all. And when you add the bullnose, in order to like get the corner nice and round and seem like flush with the wall, you have to add a lot of mud or like a lot of putty. And so in the original, when we first made it into like an archway, the corners I had to add a lot of putty to the wall to make the wall come out nice and proud to the edges of that semicircle. And so there was a ton of leftover mud on the walls from before, and so instead of like going through and sanding all that down, we sanded some of it down, but this time we just added like tons and tons and tons of putty to smooth it out. We did
a lot of layers.
So this was, I think on the outside we did four coats, and the inside was 3.
I know that we want to not spend an overabundance of money. Like, we want to try to keep this as cheap as possible. That's why we're trying to do it on our own. But I do want to say that it was so helpful to have the correct tools.
Yes.
We did buy the like sandpaper holder and bought sandpaper that was made for taking off the putty. Yeah.
So we got the drywall sander, the hand sander. Which is it's like I don't know, it has a nice hand grip on it. We just got the cheapest one from Home Depot. It was like $7, $6, something like that. And then we got the 3M drywall sanding screens, which is like the 120 mil.
Sanding screens.
Or the 120. I don't actually know what that gauge is for, but it's the 120 sandpaper screen thing, sanding screens from 3M. Those worked out pretty nicely. We ended up going through 2, and we did 2 whole doorways. But
well, 1 doorway each side.
Yeah. We and it's worth mentioning that earlier I was working with a Dremel tool that had the 180 grit sandpaper on it.
Sure.
And it wasn't taking off enough.
Oh, okay.
It wasn't as aggressive enough.
Okay.
So it was just like too fine, and so it wasn't going deep.
Yeah, this was great. I didn't get to see you use that tool, but this tool worked out really well.
Yeah, it did.
So worth the money.
Yeah, worth the money. I mean, it's like $5. Yeah, so worth the $5. But yeah, having the right tool for the job is great. Another thing we had the right tool for the job. Dad let me borrow the miter saw, so we were able to cut the baseboards with those nice, beautiful 45s. So
I was so surprised that we found a match for our baseboards at Home Depot.
Yeah, so you can take your, like, if you we had like a leftover piece of baseboard from what I ripped out, and we just took that to Home Depot and like lined it up with all the different baseboards and found one, and that was also pretty affordable. It's like $1.80 a square or a foot or something, a linear foot. It's priced by linear foot.
And we got the largest piece they had, which was like 16 feet.
I know. Nicole was pretty annoyed with me because I wouldn't ask for help and have it cut in the store.
I mean, it's free. Like, they will cut pieces to size for you, like, and we knew how long we needed, and I knew it wouldn't fit in the truck.
It totally fit.
I didn't think that.
Home Depot is like a par 3 from our house. We could hit it with a rock.
I know, but it's so much easier to put it in the cart when it's 5 feet shorter.
Gosh, the cart was like, humongous. It's so comical when you get these massive things of lumber in Home Depot, and then you're like trying to steer through the aisles, knocking things off the shelves, and like
super comical.
Poking people.
Speaking of the cart was one of, I don't know if you go to Home Depot as much as we do. We go there all the time. And so we had one of those race car carts for the kids. And I remember when we lived in the Bay, the kids, both of them, they were 16 months apart. So I probably had like a 5-month-old and a 21-month-old. And they would get up so early in the morning and they'd be ready for the day. And I found that if I didn't take them out of the house, they would just go crazy. Like they would be all over each other and they'd drive me nuts. And so I would get them out of the house as early as I could. And so the only stores that were open at 8 a.m., Home Depot and Lowe's. And they both had, like, I had to go to a place where they had somewhere for 2 babies to sit. And not a lot of places have that. But Home Depot and Lowe's both have race car carts. So I have pictures of them. Like, Logan was barely able to sit up. I had him strapped in there.
Buckle in,
And we wouldn't buy anything. We would just walk around up and down the aisles, and they loved it. So anyway, Grayson asked this time if he could sit in one of those carts, and we had to like wedge him in there.
Take your shoes off.
Yeah, he's 6, almost 7. He'll be 7 in January, and so month and a half. And yeah, he had to take his shoes off, and so we're pretty sure this was the last time that he got to sit in that cart. So I had to take a picture. So maybe we should post the first and the last of the...
Oh, you have... Oh, my gosh.
I do.
That's kind of fun. Yeah.
So that was fun. But anyway, we used the saw.
Yep, we used the saw. So that was another, like...
So this time we worked on the project together.
We did, yeah.
That was kind of a goal of ours, is to try to do some sort of project together. And...
doing more projects together.
Yes, yeah.
So we got the right tools for the job this time. We got all the materials.
Yep.
We made it home. We were able to cut it. We used the miter saw, cut those angles on the baseboards, and they're like perfect fits. And then I guess we took the drywall sander and sanded down all the edges to try to make it as smooth as possible, so you can't really see where the seam is. We'll see. It's hard to tell right now where it's at.
Yeah, it is.
But
then next up was texture, which was also tricky because it's a hole in a wall, so you want to match the texture of the wall that's already connected to it. It's not as if we're doing an entire wall and it doesn't matter that this texture is slightly off. And the 2 textures that they like sell at Home Depot, I'm sure there are hundreds of different textures you could pick from a professional, but the 2 are orange peel and knockdown.
Yep.
And we continue to go back and forth whether or not we have orange peel or knockdown.
Yeah, we are not experts at texture or tape or any of that. And so when we look at the wall, when you look at your own wall and you see what texture's on there, knowing if that is orange peel or knowing if that is knockdown, I don't know, I feel like you got to be a pro to know that. Like, even the picture on the bottle doesn't give you enough, like, I don't know. And they're also pretty close. Like, I don't know. They seem...
Yeah, so we went with orange peel. And I'm still not convinced that that's what we have.
Yeah, we might have knockdown.
But it's working so far. So we're at that step now where that bottle too was also very not intuitive to use. There's like different settings. Do you want it to be
Heavy or fine?
Heavy or light, and do you want the pressure to shoot out light or harder? And you must stand 18 to 24 inches away. Yeah. And sometimes when you're that far away, the texture doesn't even hit the wall. And
so it was
a learning curve.
Yeah, it's an aerosolized. Is that how you say it, aerosolized?
Sure.
Okay, it's an aerosol can that has like liquefied texture mud stuff that you shoot out of a can. It's kind of like a spray paint, but instead of shooting out paint in like a smooth, continuous stream, it shoots out like little boogers. That hang out to the wall.
Yeah. I imagine it has like one of those CO2 cans inside of it. So like they're meeting each other in there and that's what's shooting it out.
I don't know. Hard to say what's in there. Hard to say.
It just reminds me of when I worked at the coffee shop and we had our own homemade whipped cream. And so the way to make the liquid into the foamy cream is you had to add in that CO2 cartridge, shake it up, and then shoot it. Just reminds me of that. So I imagine there's something in there.
Yeah.
Anyway, so we did that. And I have to say, I thought it was great that we were working on it together because we are so different in the way that we approach things that the blend together, I think, will make a really nice end result. But will you tell the funny story?
It's not. She's making fun of me because the last time I did texture, on the can, there's instructions that I never read. And that's every can. I don't read instructions on cans. I just open cans and start doing things with the stuff that's in the can.
Yeah.
This can has a little plastic part that they expect you to snap off of the can. And I didn't do that last time.
Well, from the beginning, he was like, this is the part that I'm most worried about. Last time I did texture, it did not look right.
Yeah.
It was hard to get it to match at all. And I always read instructions. I will not do anything until I've read instructions, maybe watched a YouTube video.
And you follow the instructions to a T. She made me measure with a measuring tape. What is 18 to 24 inches away from the wall?
Yes. I want it to be nice. If we're going to put the time into it, I want it to look good. But I thought it was hilarious that you were like, no wonder this didn't work. I never removed this piece that says...
rip this piece off.
Yeah.
It says remove pull tab or something. I never removed that last time. So instead of spraying like straight out of the can, I just sprayed out of the top.
Yeah.
Or something.
Explains a lot.
Yeah.
So I've told CJ that he can't do projects without me anymore.
The texture last time did not look good, but it was only the edges around the inside of this thing, so it was like, whatever, no big deal. But now that we have this like huge, I don't know, 4 by 9 foot, it'll matter more. Yeah. And I'm glad that you were there to help me with that.
So the next step is to paint it.
Yes.
And we wanted to talk a little bit about paint. We were lucky enough that when we purchased this house, one of the perks was that we could pick the paint color. Of course, the options were like 4 different shades of beige.
Yeah.
But I picked one of them. And so they painted the entire house a beige color. And they also used a company, Sherwin-Williams, that happens to have a store right next to our house. So it's been very convenient for us whenever there are a lot of holes in the walls and we need to touch up, or a child decides to color every single wall.
This kid... he was like tallying up his toys with tally marks on every wall in our house or something.
I think he just liked the color green and he realized, look at how pretty it looks on the wall. And so you could see the trail he walked through the house.
The entire house.
And he just like walked and walk, walk.
They were like 4 to 6 inch strike marks of green crayon down the hallway, around the corner, up the...
Right. So anyway, we're familiar with the process of getting the paint. And apparently the paint color we have at one point was like the most popular in the United States. So it's very easy to come by. So it's Killam Beige. And, but we can never remember when we get there, like, well, what is it? Is it eggshell? Is it satin finish?
Oh, you mean
is
the
it
finish?
Flat?
Yeah.
And so CJ looked them all up.
Yeah. So we can talk like briefly about the different finishes. Generally, there is like matte / flat through semi-gloss, and in the middle there's like satin. And so when you start it all depends on like how reflective the finish is. So a matte finish is going to be not reflective at all. When you shine light like at an angle or something, you're not going to be able to see light bouncing off of it.
Matte is definitely my favorite finish.
Yeah, you like matte things. Semi-gloss and gloss, when you shine a light at it, it's going to reflect back. But there's a bunch of like trade-offs when you choose a finish,
right? And
there's specific finishes that are generally used in certain rooms because of the way that the walls are used. Yeah,
right. Okay. And so I would guess that something matte is going to absorb and not let you remove anything that's on it.
Yes,
is that right?
Yeah. So it's harder. It's much harder to clean.
Okay.
You cannot clean matte, and when you try to clean it, it just like actually takes the paint off.
Yep, that's what I experienced with the crayon.
Yeah. But it's easy to touch up because when you paint, it's supposed to be easy. When you paint over it with the same color, it's supposed to match really easily.
Okay.
But it also holds a lot of dirt.
That's
like,
what
it can
I was,
get really dirty.
Yeah. When I was touching up areas, actually where we have like a panel of light switches, that gets touched a lot by little kid hands who are trying to reach light switches. And that's when I was trying to touch up the crayon there, I could see the difference because it was dirty.
Yep.
So that makes sense to me.
Yeah, so that's matte. And then I'm satin is kind of in the middle. So let's just not talk about satin. We can ignore it. It's basically in between matte and semi-gloss or gloss. So semi-gloss and gloss are the most reflective, and these are this is the finish that you generally want to use in like a bathroom or a kitchen. Sorry, matte you want to use in like a bedroom or living room because you shouldn't ever really need to scrub the walls in a bathroom. Or I'm sorry, in a bedroom or living room. But in the kitchen, when you got the pasta sauce on, and you're making a really creative Mexican dish, and this red sauce is flying all over the walls. Yeah. You want to be able to scrub that off. Same thing in the bathroom, toothpaste. As you're training your 5 and 6 year old to brush their teeth, their toothpaste flies all over the place, and they're popping zits, and all kinds of weird things are getting on the walls in the bathrooms and the kitchen. And so you want to be able to scrub that. And so if you have a finish that is glossy and that is reflective, it is generally like really durable and really scrubbable.
Okay.
But the downside, there's a huge downside.
Oh.
And that is that anytime you mess up a glossy finished area, you can see all the imperfections.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So that's
interesting. That's okay.
Yeah.
That makes sense. Okay. I also learned, because I brought a little sample of the paint to the paint store thinking that, I already knew what the color was, but I was like, oh, let's see if they can match. I don't know. I just brought it. Oh, also because I didn't know if we had flat or satin or whatever. So I brought it in, this little teeny tiny like fleck.
Yeah.
I couldn't even tell you how big it was. I walk in and I was like, hi, I want to get some of this. And he looked at me and he was like, well, I can't color match that tiny little thing. Like, that's just not going to work. I was like, that's okay. I know it's killing beige, but trying to cover my tracks. I was like, but I only brought this so you could tell me if it's satin or flat or whatever. And he said just by feeling it, he knew that the tiny speck was flat.
Flat, yeah. So how much do you need to bring?
So I asked him, I was like, oh, well, out of curiosity, he said that it needs to be larger than a quarter.
Okay. Like a U.S. quarter.
A U.S. quarter.
Okay. I thought they had like a mass spectrometer that they put it in there and it did all this crazy CSI science and spit out like, here's
and I think it takes a while because somebody came in after me and they had, when you buy a house or whenever you have your walls painted, maybe they give you like a little pint size of the paint that they use.
It's like touch-up
paint. He had brought that in and it had like frozen or something. And so it was like this big chunky mess. And he was like, can you...
fix it?
No, but could you like tell me what color this is?
Okay.
And he said, yeah, it's going to take an hour.
An hour?
Yeah.
Wow.
So it's not just toss it in the machine and they'll tell you, from what I could tell.
Or maybe it is, but it takes the machine an hour.
Right.
Yeah, yes. It's not just like immediate. It's not like a diabetes test or something.
Oh, I thought you were going to make a reference to the guy on Bones who uses the mass spec all the time.
Oh, yeah.
He just pops it in and then
we know nothing about science. We just watch Grey's Anatomy and Bones, and so all of a sudden we are like scientists that know everything about.
So I would also like, I'm curious to remove a quarter amount of paint. Like that's going to take the texture off, isn't it?
Is, yeah.
And so of course you would do it in some inconspicuous spot.
Yeah.
But still, I wouldn't want a quarter size of no texture on my wall.
I know.
So then what? You go buy...
Where do you pick?
Do spackle and texture? I don't know. Anyway.
Oh, yeah.
That's a whole project in itself. So hopefully you don't ever have to do that. Keep track of your paint colors.
Yeah. That's. I mean, the other thing that's nice about Sherwin-Williams is you put your phone number on file, and then...
He did not ask me my phone number.
What? Mm-hmm. All right, well...
I even said we've been here multiple times.
Yeah, okay. So they can look up every single paint that you have ever purchased by your phone number if you do that phone number thing. And then they can tell you, like, oh, here, in 2007 you bought...
That makes sense.
10 gallons of...
That's good, because I don't know the name of the paint
gray.
we used at the other house.
Yeah, that's... I mean, I'm banking on them having that database, so...
That's true.
We should probably write that down.
So after we paint, then what?
After we paint, we're going to put the baseboards on.
Okay.
And usually you do that with like a nice finish nailer. Mm-hmm. I don't have a nailer. I could borrow I guess I could try to see if I can borrow my dad's, but I have these finish screws that I accidentally purchased for something else that are like really, really, they have like a really small head to them. And so I am going to try that first. I'm going to try to tack down the baseboards with these finish screws.
Okay.
Then you go back over the screws with caulk and you fill in the gaps with white caulk, and you try to make it look like there was no screw there or nail there. Mm-hmm. And then you seal the top of the baseboard with another line of caulk.
Yep.
And then you're supposed to do that before you paint. And then you paint like down to that perfect corner.
Okay.
Yeah. So
that's what we have to look forward to this week.
Yeah.
Painting and putting the baseboards back on, and then we'll be done.
Then we'll be done with this project.
High five.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, we did not have a drink with us today. I don't have a joke. Do you have quiz?
You also sound very tired.
Am I tired?
Or maybe very relaxed. Is it because we're sitting on the floor together?
Definitely sick, for sure. Yeah.
I'm sorry. We had a date night the other night. It was just at home. We didn't go out or anything. We did a puzzle together, and we did it on the floor, and we were aching by the end of it.
We are too old to sit on the old, so oh man. Yeah, it was hard to get up.
Well, as of right now, I'm kind of like, I don't know if I can get up, so maybe we better end.
Yeah, we're gonna call that good. Thank you so much again for joining us on this glorious occasion.
Can I say Happy Thanksgiving?
Sure, Happy Thanksgiving, folks. Enjoy those turkeys. Tryptophan.
Yep. See you next week.
Yep. All right.